This video is for documentary purposes only. Anything shown here is in legal states, 100% legal. Nothing shown is harmful or dangerous.
So, old school genetics. Things that a lot of people have lost over the years or haven't had the pleasure to experience. Fortunately, I've been able to stumble on some, and luckily, these do seem authentic. So if you're new here, my name is Rob and we talk all things herb. Today in particular, we're going to be talking about a new strain, or an old strain actually, that I just got into the garden and I'm going to be doing a cool project with. But before we jump to that, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors who help make episodes like this available for free and also give us some amazing discounts. Huge thanks to VivoSun, one of the most innovative names in home cultivation right now. If you haven't seen their new VGrow Smart Box or the VCure, they are absolute game changers. Fully automated lighting, airflow, and watering, controlled straight from your phone. Whether you're just starting out or dialing in your process, VGrow makes it so much easier to grow fire at home. They've also got nearly everything you need for indoor growing, from lights to tents to tools. Just use discount code CLtv on their website to save 15%, or CLtv Watch on Amazon. And also, big thanks to Seedsman. Their customer service is top notch and they've got a deep selection of quality beans. Use discount code CLtv at checkout to save yourself some yen there as well. Yes, if you're wondering, this is my stir stick and I just feel like it sounds a little better when I hold it, so I'm doing this. Shout out to the homie Strain Show for the inspiration. He has a spatula and I have a stir stick. Skunk number 1. This is a strong genetic from the 70s, one of the original DANKs that I've been looking for years, and I've finally been able to come across it. Now, thankfully, people like Todd McCormick were able to find this genetic and be able to preserve this and bring this back. But this is one that originally came from the 70s. Let's dive into the history a bit. Way back. I'm talking like the early 1970s. In Santa Cruz, California, a small group of enthusiasts were doing more than just smoking. They were collecting seeds, making crosses, and trying to breed something better. One of them was a long-haired grower named David Paul Watson. You might know him better as Sam the Skunk Man. Back in the 70s, herb was just a mess. Most of what was around came from land-raised sativas imported from places like Colombia, Panama, and Thailand. The effects were amazing from what I read, but the plants, they were tall, unstable, and could take up to 16 weeks just to flower. There was no consistency, no reliability, and no real control over what you were growing. Sam and a small group of breeders known as Sacred Seeds wanted to fix that. Their goal was to create a strain that was stable, fast flowering, potent, and reliable. They weren't working in labs with a massive budget, they were just doing this outdoors using basic tools and a deep understanding of the plant. Now, it helped that Sam started with a few legendary genetics. First, he used a pure Afghani indica, which is short, resin heavy, and known for fast flowering. Then he crossed it with a Colombian gold, which is traditionally a tall, cerebral sativa with a very strong effect. Once he had that hybrid, he brought in Acapulco Gold, which is a Mexican landrace known for its unique terp profile and pretty high yield. This gave him a three-way hybrid: the speed and resin of Afghani, the uplift and vigor of Colombian, and the flavor and structure of Acapulco Gold. But creating the hybrid wasn't enough. Sam and Sacred Seeds grew out a massive outdoor population, hundreds of plants at the time, which was pretty big then. Then they selected the best individuals year after year. And they weren't looking for just one fire plant, they were building a stable, uniform line that growers could rely on. By around 1976, Sacred Seeds started releasing Skunk 1 to the general public. This made it one of the very first commercially available, stabilized hybrid strains in America. But then from what I read, by the 80s, Sacred Seeds was raided, and that's when Sam left the US and relocated to Amsterdam. And he brought Skunk 1 with him. And it seems like that's when the history kind of got muddied up a bit.
And Sam brought it all to Holland in 1984-85. And that's when he sold some seeds to Neville, and Neville benefited from him not wanting to be ratted out. So, you know, I met Neville, we played chess before. I was gonna do a long interview with him in my magazine. He was quick to take credit for other people's work. You know, there is no Dutch word for the word skunk, for instance. And I was sitting with Ben Dronkers one in his kitchen above the Hash Museum, and he showed me a little Polaroid of him next to a plant, and it said skunk written under it in red. And he said, "This is from before David came." And I looked at him and I said, "Really?" I said, "Is there even a Dutch word for skunk?" He looked at me. He said, "Skunk." I said, "No, it's still English." And I said, "Have you ever seen a skunk out?"
Skunk in a Dutch accent to try to make it. That's so great. Hilarious. That's great.
And then I said to him, "Have you ever seen a skunk outside of Pepe Le Pew on a cartoon?" He's like, "No, I don't think so." I said, "Do they even have them in your zoos?" And he says, "I don't think so." I said, "Can I tell you why?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Because it's a North American animal. There are no skunks in Europe." So I find it hard to believe that you would call something you would have no reference to. And this is also why skunk in England is called cheese, because thiols are a compound on cheese when it's going funky. So what they perceive as that skunky thiol is cheese to them. And he looked at me,
it's a skunk.
He looked at me, he lit a cigarette, and he says, "You know too much."
Now from there, the strain took on a new life. It became a foundational part of the European seed scene. Skunk number 1 later then won the High Times Cannabis Cup in 1988, which helped launch hybrids like Cheese, Super Skunk, Skunkberry, and even parts of Jack Hare and Lemon Skunk. Now, unfortunately, for a while, the original Skunk 1 seemed to just fall off, and it was being bred out more and more, and people were losing that skunky, funky dank. A lot of times because people were trying to hide this, and that odor just stood out way too much. Also, that skunk wasn't as pleasant to a lot of consumers, funny enough, so they started to breed it out more and more, until Todd was able to discover it again from a very reliable source.
I have the original Skunk 1 that I got from Mel Frank. When I got those seeds out of his refrigerator, those seeds were 23 years old. They came from the summer of 96, and he had gotten them in 88 and just put them in the refrigerator for 8 years, did a reproduction in 96, and threw those reproductions in the refrigerator for 23 years until I got them out and realized they still smell like shit. He put those in his refrigerator. So Mel Frank got some skunk seeds from Skunk Man Sam, Dave, in 88 and put them in his refrigerator until 96. He gets busy. And then reproduced them in the summer of 96, put those reproductions back in the refrigerator, and they sat there until 2019 when I went down there to go pick up some seeds. And me and Jim been good friends, and I live up in the Bay, and I have a big house with guest rooms, and he would always just come to me because Emerald Cup and the High Times events were all in the Bay that we were going to. And I drove up to his house and I had a deja vu, and I was like, I've been here before, haven't I? And he looks at me, he holds up the vial, a 35 millimeter fume vial, and goes, Todd, you came up here a few weeks before you get busted to pick up these exact same seeds. And I was like, wow, 23 years later, talk about life interrupted. And he was like, yeah, I hope you get a chance to grow them this time.
Oh, epic.
And I was just like, holy shit. And I took them home and I, mothered them, and then I flowered them, and I realized they still smelled acrid. And acrid was how I would describe it, because it's not sweet. It's, and people are like, oh, roadkill, if it's not this or that. But it's like, I think that they live off of fantasies of what they think they remember. It's like, ex-girlfriends are always great when you think of but there's a reason she's your ex.
Oh, the smell goes by and you reminisce, some perfume or something and then you're like, wow, that was amazing. And then you go back to that time though, and you were running a whole different, it was a whole different thing.
So the excitement is hard to contain, and I was able to find an amazing phenotype of headbanger, and I'm looking to take that phenotype and mix it with something from Skunk number 1. Trying to get that stability and the dankness from that old school genetic while bringing it into something more modern, early 2000s-ish, with the headbanger, which is a biker kush mixed with a sour diesel from Karma Genetics. We'll see what we can create from this. We'll see if we can find something that's amazing. What I do recommend is that you subscribe if you haven't already and you follow along. Hit that like button if you like stuff like this, because I will be putting out a series following this, going throughout the next probably year periodically. So if you're not watching me live on Saturdays, make sure you stay tuned over here to be able to see the full final update, probably by the end of the year. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys so much for watching and pulling up. Make sure you stay lifted. Peace. Growers who are looking for that secret sauce usually are just missing something from their garden. And to help with that, we bring you the Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Stash Blend brings beneficial bacteria, silicon, seaweed, humic acid, and has enough macronutrition to help lower the dosages of your base feed too. Unleash your plant's true potential with Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Available at Growers House.